thanks so much, Paul. Yeah, so unbelievably privileged to have sort of three people coming up that are all really driving the industry at the highest levels. This morning also, to all the people who have spoken, you've all been absolutely incredible. I think like getting to hear, one of the things we always try and focus on is like we have loads of CEOs in the rooms, and then getting the teams who are doing the work, who are building things out, has just been so amazing to hear. And I think you are the reason that the company is, that the industry is driving forward. So the three people I'm going to introduce up. The first is Jeanette, who is the CEO and Group CFO of London Marathon. I'm going to give you more of an intro. I wouldn't stand up yet. No, there's a lot to say. So Jeanette, who is Group CFO and CEO at London Marathon Events, has been said by the CEO, shall remain nameless, one of the three most impactful people he's ever worked with, has had an extraordinary career from accountancy through the fashion industry and various different areas there, and is now really been driving forward LME's strategy of growing globally, acquiring new events in new areas in the UK and sort of increasingly looking further afield, and is now one of the most influential people in the industry. And so thank you so much in this week of all weeks to come and give us some time. So Jeanette. Woo! So from the largest race in the world by participants to the largest race organizer in the world by number of events, the RunThrough juggernaut ever continues to charge through. What Matt and Ben, who is here somewhere, and Ben is reliably going to be running a 2:29 on Sunday. Hopefully. I will not be anywhere near you for that entire thing. So yeah, Matt and Ben have started an extraordinary series of races. Lucy, Matt's wonderful and I'm sure incredibly long-suffering wife, you heard from earlier, is what they've created is something absolutely extraordinary. Pretty much every race, every weekend, anywhere in the UK, you will have 4 or 5 run-through races going on. Just launched in the US with Long Beach. They are one of the fastest growing organizers in the world by events. I think they're the largest running organizer in the world, and really, really excited to hear from you. And the acquisitions Matt have doing has also been super interesting. So Matt Wood, thank you very much. And then also unbelievably privileged to be joined by Michelle, who has spent the last 11 years at TCS, runs all of global sports sponsorship at TCS, who are the premier sponsors across the sports and definitely the running landscape globally. On Sunday, you will see TCS obviously absolutely everywhere with the marathon, but similarly, so many incredible races around the world. Michelle, before that, was working with Mary at New York Roadrunners. You were there together at the same time, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Best hires ever.
Amazing. So incredibly high praise. Mary is definitely my best hire ever. So we can go on down that list. But yeah, Michelle obviously in the driving seat of the most important commercial conversations, the most important partnership conversations going on globally. So we feel incredibly privileged to have you join us today. Thank you so much, Michelle. Someone earlier said me and Matt on the stage together is an absolute nightmare because the pace of speech will be completely unintelligible. But neither of us will slow down in any way. I just wanted to sort of start from the headline context of there's a lot of aggregation going on in the industry. The industry's growing, a lot of cash is coming in, a lot of sponsorships coming in, a lot of acquisitions are going on. I would just love to start by, for each of you talking about your individual organizations, how do you think about looking at races that you want to work with, that you think are interesting, and what's sort of specific about those that you could share with us?
Shall I go first?
Yes, number 1 seat.
Okay, so it's interesting because it's a mix of opportunities that come our way and things that we have just observed. But yeah, there are a few things that we look at. I mean, the first one is it actually a good event? You know, that's it's pretty obvious, but true. You know, is there a loyal community? Is there a fan base? Is there potential for further growth? But also, what is the story? You know, what is the USP? It's so, you know, you see lots of events just popping up, you know, here and there, but what is it that makes that event special? I think a part of it also comes down to financial sustainability as well. You know, at the end of the day, we are looking at events that we believe they don't have to be profitable at the time, but we want to see that there is a route to profitability. Just to be clear with us, like our parent company, London Marathon Foundation, is a charity and we're not for profit. So I talk about, the idea of making a profit, but that's actually so that we can gift aid it to the foundation, who then go on to give grants to other organizations, charities that are trying to inspire activity. For us as well, a big part is social impact. So, when we're looking at an event, do we see this as an event that, is going to inspire activity, particularly in those who aren't particularly active? Does it help us reach underserved communities as well? And then there's the piece about strategic fit, because, obviously, there's a lot of really, really great events out there, but you've kind of got to think, okay, how does this fit within our kind of wider universe? Are there efficiencies to be gained, or actually does it help us to reach new demographics, whether that's, again, underrepresented groups, or, for instance, a younger audience, or actually, we've now started to look overseas as well, which is really exciting. And then I think the final thing I'll add is the value add piece, because, again, we don't tend to just invest and not get involved. Like for us, it's all about inspiring activity. So we're going to have an opinion. And I think, we're looking for events where we think we can also add value as well.
Amazing. Matt?
Yeah, that's obviously a lot of those things are very similar to that. Yeah, obviously, I think with RunThrough, we are, most of our events, we started ourselves, so we didn't acquire from the start. We're not initially an acquiring business. I think it's 85% of our events are our own events that we started from scratch. So we understand what people do to start an event. And I think the next stage of RunThrough isn't necessarily about doing and starting other events. Acquiring other events that already exist is really important. And we're looking for people who are not just about the event, but the human being behind the event, the creator of that event, that person who started it from their bedroom and created this amazing, amazing experience for thousands of people. We want to work with those people. So as we grow, we need more and more staff. We're 100 plus staff in the UK currently, and we're growing pretty quickly. I think 400,000 people will run a RunThrough event this year, will enter a RunThrough event this year, and we are the largest privately held company in the UK that does this sort of thing. Ben and I started it from our cars, from our bedrooms, and it's got to the point with 8 events in year 1 to 315 events this year. We know what it's like. We know the growth pains. We understand that. So we want people to work with us so we can give our experience to them. And also other companies, they'll buy a company hoping they are the perfect fit, the people are already there, but we know and we have been through it ourselves, so we can give experience to people. We can give them the ability to take away certain tasks that they don't want to do anymore. When you start an event, you're doing the emails, you're doing the operations itself, like putting out the vans, driving the vans to the events, putting out the barriers, everything. But we've got a massive team of people, and you can take away part of your job and give it to people who are better at you than that, and then come part of the RunThrough family and grow with us. So, yeah, it's a slightly different look, but a lot of those things do align with how we think as well.
Amazing.
Very good. For TCS, I probably would peel it back a little bit, because we, as a B2B company, our view is a little bit different. But what we found is that first, when we started this journey into sports sponsorships, and we are not a company that does traditional marketing, right? So we are pretty unknown. I feel like I can say that maybe. But we started it from a very years ago. We dabbled in a lot of different sports, right? As one does, and big companies, they can get into a lot of different things. And when we came across running, and I can share that story at another time, but we came across running in a very organic way, right? It really spoke to our core values. So I think number one for us is that alignment with core values of our organization. IT services is not particularly the most exciting topic to talk about sometimes.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think that's absolutely fascinating.
And for us, running gives us such a natural way to humanize our brand. I mean, there's nothing more human than a marathon journey, right? You stand at a finish line, we say this all the time, you want to feel something. Stand at a marathon finish line and you will feel all the emotions. So for us, there's something so incredibly emotive about the sport that allows us to connect with customers, but then also with the community. And I guess I share that as a way of saying, when we started this journey and getting into particularly marathons, we were seen as a non-endemic partner in this space. And so it was a little untraditional. And And I love it, though, because I think it encourages people to look outside of traditional sponsorship buckets. Because, again, when you can align with a company on core values in terms of giving back to the community, sustainability, engaging employees in health and wellness. We're not a health and wellness company, but we believe in it for our people, right? As companies should. And we believe in it for our clients. So for us, that alignment really worked for us. And when we're looking for places to partner with, the core values, there is a business element too, of course. We've explored markets where the events are super strong, but we don't have a client base there. So for us, that wouldn't necessarily make sense. So it has to also meet our business objectives as well. So after the core values, the business objectives, and then Jeanette, as you said, safety of the event operations, that strong operational backbone is important too.
It's amazing. I think it's wonderful to see sort of three of the greatest capital allocators in our industry talking about the things that I think we all share passionately, whether it's the quality of the events, the alignment with values, the knowing what it's like to go and do it. Conversation I've had with Nick at Y11, I think Tim's in the room somewhere from the Y11 side. Similarly, there's all of this that we have on the alignment side. There's then the fact that for the vast majority of people having conversations with TCS or with London Marathon or with RunThrough, it will be the biggest deal they do in their lives, and whereas you will all be having these conversations sort of like with different people every week. For them, it's this incredible black box. They might understand the event side, they might understand how to do it, but how to do a massive sponsorship deal or how to do an acquisition is really difficult. What advice do you have for people, and in incredibly inventive ways, we'll go the other way down the line. What advice do you have, or would be the most valuable piece of advice you could give for people when they're coming to you that either you see people get wrong, or that for someone coming to this process, an incredibly stressful process for the first time, that they could take as a learning?
I love this question, by the way, because I feel like this is something we do work through all the time. You'd be surprised at how many people approach us and they only have their agenda in mind, right? They only are coming from their own perspective of, as an event, as a event organizer, this is what we need to succeed. So can you give us this? And it isn't sometimes approached with that partnership aspect in mind. For us, there's so much value in having partners that understand our business, that understand what we need to succeed and what is of value to us. And it can vary depending on the event and the geography, but really staying engaged with us and in conversation year-round and understanding what's important to you, right? Even asking that question, how do you measure success? What is important to you? What would a big win look like for your team this year with this event? And understanding that and helping us work to it is really helpful.
Michelle, you've also completely spoiled the next question, which is going to be that. But we'll come to that in a second. Matt, when it comes to you, when you sort of have a race director coming to you and they're sort of like looking at RunThrough as a partner, what advice would you have for that person coming in and looking to sell their business to RunThrough?
I suppose from our perspective, it's transparency on their personal life and what they want out of it. When you start an event and you put your all into it, do you want to exit from that event and move on with your life, get a job doing something completely different? Or do you want to be part of something for the long term? And understanding that from the outset and being transparent about that with your partner, who the person potentially acquiring your event, is the most important thing, because we've done both situations. We've had lots of events that have come to us that the owners or the founders, they potentially got into the 60s, 70s, and they're thinking, this can't be me forever. I want to be part of it, but I need to move away at some point. We've taken on some massive events because of that situation happening. However, on the flip side, there's young, attractive events that are popping up with people who are so passionate that we want part of the RunThrough team, because they might slot into our company and find a really important job for themselves within that structure and be able to work on that event and make it better as well. So there's two completely different dynamics there, but for me, it's the transparency over it.
Yeah, amazing. And I think that makes so much. One of the things that I've heard from a lot of organizers working with you guys is that sort of like level of like understanding of the accessibility, as far as saying like they didn't feel like, oh, I needed to say this because I thought they wanted to be like, that clarity was there. Obviously, some very high profile acquisitions at sort of both ends of the spectrum, whether it was something sort of big and traditional like Brighton and what's happened there, to something we obviously started the conversation with from a last Let's Use Live with something like Friday Night Lights. one of the conversations I had with a couple of those was there's coming into a room with someone like you who has all of this experience, all of this knowledge, and that they don't feel they can sort of participate on that level. How would you suggest that someone feels at ease in the environment when they come and meet the group CFO of the London Marathon and they start trying to understand how to sell?
I would just say, really be yourself. It's a bit cliched, but at the end of the day, I kind of like this part of the journey to dating, because you are essentially potentially getting into a relationship with each other for quite a number of years. So there has to be that chemistry and there has to be that fit as well. And the more yourself you are, the sooner you'll learn as to whether you can actually work together. And it might be that they don't like us. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to be gained from just being yourself. I think the other thing I'd say, and I'm going to sound totally numbersy now, so I do apologize, but there is an element of just actually understanding your numbers. And I don't mean that from a technical accounting perspective at all, but just what are the levers to your business? Understand what those kind of like levers are that you can play with. And also understand, for example, we were looking at an events company that did 20 different events, and they kind of presented their numbers and they were like, voila, here are the numbers. And I'm like, okay, that's just like one number. What does that actually mean? And actually, when you've got a portfolio of, say, 20 events, know which ones are the ones which are your golden egg, your cash cow, this is an event. And it might be that you've got some events that are loss-making, and that's fine. That's not an issue in itself, but understand that dynamic. So at least it's sort of like, okay, we do this one, it's a really popular event, this is kind of what's keeping everything afloat. But then actually there's this other one, but we really believe in it because of these reasons. And yeah, just having that understanding really kind of helps that journey.
Love that. And before we come on to sort of what each of you are looking for, when you think about that balance between the kind of emotional, take something like Hugh, who you work very closely, who I love to pieces, incredibly emotional. Matt, who I work with in Love to Pieces, and me and him are both incredibly emotional. Michelle, I don't know you well enough to know your emotional levels. I'll look at Mary. But me and Mary definitely both incredibly emotional. Sounds like you're the person you and Jeanette can anchor the rest of us. How much of these decisions come down to emotional decision of, I love the founder, I love the race, I love the experience, I love the vision, versus, actually, no, this is dollars and cents, and this is there. Obviously, both have to play a role, but within each of you, where is that balance?
From my perspective, I think it's, again, the stage of life conversation, which I mentioned before, and understanding that. But for me, if it's someone that wants to be part of the RunThrough family and grow with us, or have their own separate entity and we can support that, it is down to them. We have to really or feel like we're going to be able to work with that person for a long time. I know that. I've got a business partner I've worked with for 12 years, every day, day in, day out. And it is a relationship, probably more important to me than my wife. No, I'm joking. but it is like you're so close to it, yourself and Alex working back to back and growing something together. It's really important to do that. And you need to understand each other. And I suppose from our side, it's less calculated in the sense that they're the numbers, that's what works, let's go with it. It's how can this event help inspire Active Nations? How can this event grow the running scene, get people out there fit, healthy, and active? Because that is what it's all about, not the numbers. It's about growing the sport and getting people fit and healthy for all the other million reasons which everyone else has talked about. And that's what we care about at RunThrough.
Love that. And does that even extend to the sort of TCS? I mean, obviously, you have almost all of the largest properties in the industry. Does it still play a role at that level, the sort of emotional purpose side, or does it become more towards the numbers?
It's definitely a mix of both, right? You actually can't do one without the other. So it's for sure a mix of both. I mean, we're so fortunate, we're so embedded in this running space that we're very fortunate that the running space attracts a lot of really cool people, right? So, obviously, as seen in this room, so we're, a lot of people who have the discipline of runners, right? And that really helps on the business side.
Love that.
Same with us. I mean, of course, there has to be an element of financial sustainability, but it really is all about the people, the values. There was one organization that we purchased recently where we weren't the highest bidder. But we went all out on the values and won it through that piece. And so, yeah, just that kind of looking each other in the eye and actually saying, yeah, we can really work together to make this happen. And, you know, it really is a partnership. It's not unusual for me to be on a call with Charlie at like 10:30 at night. I think he's left now, but yeah, and you know, same with Ben from Maverick. So it really is a partnership. And so, yeah, that people, that emotional connection is key.
Yeah, I struggle to sleep without a call from Hugh at least 11 p.m. at night. So I'm
it's
sure,
not just me then.
not you. Final question before we go to some questions is sort of on like timing and what each of you are looking for at the moment. Like something we hear from organisers all the time, and this was the most requested conversation we had, and there's probably sort of 400 or 500 different organisers who I know will watch this back and be really interested in this specific point. We're hearing from a lot of organisers that on the one hand, there's this excitement in the industry is growing, but they don't really know where that might top out. Like, is this a 3-4 year really exciting trend? Is this a 15-20 year super trend? And then on the other side, it's a pretty scary time in the world. Like there's, we won't get on the political side, but I mean, there's sort of some challenging policies both for people working in and outside the US and also for what's happening with the major economies in the global economy. And so there's some nervousness like, is this the right time to sell? And is this the right time to try and change big sponsors or whatever? Would love to ask each of you, and maybe we could go down the line. What do you feel like on the time? Is this a great time to be selling a race or looking for a new headline? Is this a bad time to be doing that? And also combined with that, what are you looking for right now at the moment in the current environment as far as things that are particularly interesting and people who might want to be reaching out?
Is it a good time? Tricky. I think now's as good a time as any. So I get what you're saying. There is a lot of kind of instability in the world, but at the same time, things go on. And, you know, I think we are seeing a lot of retirement in the sector at the moment. You know, London Marathon is celebrating its 45th anniversary this weekend. And, you know, there were a lot of organizations that were, you know, set up around that time. So if anything, there are things coming up for sale that have never come up for sale before. So, you know, from that perspective, you could say that it's a really good time. And yeah, you know, running, you know, you're seeing the trends, you're seeing the numbers. You know, we have a 50-50 joint venture with Run for Wales, and Cardiff Half Marathon sold out in something ridiculous like 12 minutes. Like, you know, it's unheard of. So
quite a stressful day at the office, that.
Yeah, I can imagine. In terms of what we're looking for, I mean, we are always very open-minded, as you know. You know, we've got all sorts of investments from Cooper to trail running to, you know, Brighton, for example. I think it would be really nice to have something in Ireland. You know, our vision mission is to inspire activity, and we very much mean that across the UK. So we recently made investments in Scotland, and I talked about the Run for Wales one. So if we could have that complete UK piece, that would be nice. Also, we've started to look internationally. So some of you may be aware that the Barcelona license came up. So yeah, keen to kind of dip our toe in the water internationally and see what that could do. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say anything goes, but at the same time, we are just open-minded, and a good opportunity is a good opportunity.
Jeanette's inbox is going to be busy. Matt.
Someone told me not to say that. Sorry not to listen to them.
Anyone get in touch? We will share details. Matt?
Yeah, that's definitely, every opportunity is a good opportunity. But I think for us, from not being part of the initial establishment, we're looking for establishment, like you mentioned then, these events that started 30, 40 years ago. And because we started from scratch 12 years ago, we're very much the up-and-comer in this space. So, for example, we just bought the Windsor Triathlon, which is an established event, obviously a royal venue, and it's fantastic. It aligns with our Hampton Court Palace, Hillsborough Castle, other royal venues we work with. And for us, it's that, trying to find those establishment opportunities. But the other flip side to it is the innovation part as well. And people who have started an event or two and they want to grow with a bigger company, then we're there for that as well. And as you mentioned then, like we've got, looking into Europe and the States, we've got 6 events in 4 countries in Europe this year for trails. And then we've got the States as well, so the Long Beach event, which you mentioned. We've got 6 lined up for this year, hoping for 10, and then next year 30, 60. And we already are, by number of events, the biggest in the world in terms of that. But if we can do the same thing we did in the UK, in the States, then there's no stopping us from that point of view. But for us, very much our main business is the UK. There's so much more to do here. We're so passionate about here. We're a UK-based company. So yeah, for me, anyone who wants to talk about making their events bigger, better, then we're here for that conversation.
Love it. And just a sort of small follow-up, with this launch in the US, and obviously and we're definitely seeing as well, I mean, sort of like, I think it took us 7 years to get to the same numbers that we've got to the US in 6 months. I mean, like, obviously the size of that market, the passion for that market, I think there are nuances and there are differences, and we've learned a ton from amazing partners like Andy and others to get better in that market. But there's obviously just like such volume there. When you look at the US market, is that based around an acquisitive strategy as far as like looking at various different acquisitions, or is it going to be more of the land and expand that you did on the UK, and a lot of US organisers will end up watching this? So like, yeah, how are you thinking about that?
I think we can act differently now than we did at the start of RunThrough in the UK. We can invest in acquisitions to speed things up. Right now, we're starting our events, we're finding venues, we're building them from scratch. But if there's any opportunities to buy a company that has that sort of infrastructure ready in place, we're open to that conversation as well. But yeah, both avenues are exciting, and both are the future.
Epic.
Yeah, I'll also say for the first part of the question is now a good time to get into running, and I say absolutely yes. In everything that you shared, right, the craziness of the world we're living in right now, running is such a solution to so many of the challenges we're facing, right? Anxiety, mental health, child obesity, right? All of these things we're so enabled to help support people with through running. So we're seeing the data right now of the growth of running. We're seeing the data showing us that the younger, right, that 20 to 25 or 20 to 30 age group is just booming right now. People are seeking community more than ever, right? The work from home culture that came out of COVID has created people like seeking community. So it feels like we're all sitting in a place of opportunity right now through the sport. And then in terms of what TCS is looking for right now, honestly, I mean, we just signed our 14th endurance sponsorship a few weeks ago with the Schneider Electric Paris Marathon. I'll say, I think we've got to kind of lock in and make sure that we're delivering the best we can on the sponsorships that we have, and put our focus there for now.
One of the questions that I had coming up with, and huge congratulations on the Paris, I think that's going to be very, very exciting. With something like TCS is like, I think because of the iconic partnerships you've done globally, a lot of people that's such a dream as far as like, I want to build this company over the next sort of 5-10 years and end up in a situation where they might be able to get a coffee with you. How long does something like that Paris process take? Like sort of from when that conversation's starting to like, should people be coming in trying to build that relationship once they're basically ready to go and they're coming up for their headline? Is it sort of years long? Like what does that process look like ideally for you?
Yeah, it's a long process. It can take years, quite frankly. There's research we do in the markets. There's observing that we do. So it can take a while. I'm sure there might even be some people sitting here right now that have emails in my inbox. I'm a little embarrassed to say that, like maybe I've never gotten to. I apologize if that's the case. But it does, and you know, certainly some of it is that we think a lot about, you know, what we're doing, what we're investing in. We've got a lot on our plate right now, so we're not adding at the scale that we were. Even our budgeting and planning cycles are 18 months, right? So it takes time.
Amazing. So if you want a wonderful TCS deal in 3 years' time, then start getting to work. Love to pause there for any questions. Super happy for the topics to be as broad as you possibly want. Obviously, you can talk about acquisition cycles, any of the acquisitions that or sponsorships that anyone's worked on, anything other side on brand sponsorships, anything at all that people want to dive in on. We have one at the back. Rob, one of our Fast System team members.
Working? Is it working?
He's delivered it very quickly, and then it's not working as effectively.
I'm loud anyway.
Yeah,
okay.
shout.
Question for TCS. As a non-consumer-facing brand, how are you measuring like the success of your sponsorship campaigns in these events that you sponsor in the World Majors kind of each year? What does the success of that campaign look like?
Yeah, good question. It's a combination of ROI and return on objectives. So certainly the ROI, right, all the impression numbers, the traditional brand things that you measure in a market on brand lift and that kind of stuff. But depending on the market, we might have very specific objectives. And meaning success for some races or markets might be a business connection that we make. And that leads me to another point that I just wanted to share, especially for some of the race organizers and folks. Again, finding out what your partners are looking for. Sometimes for us, it's the ecosystem of the other partners and the opportunity to connect and make business relationships with folks in that ecosystem is just as helpful as talking to the runners, right? So there's lots of different ways to slice and dice, but I hope I answered your question.
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. 1 from 1. Probably got time for one more. Mary.
Someone else have a question.
You go, and if it's a quick one, we'll do one more.
As much a perspective from the event organizer side, what all three talked about, one of the biggest things we learned over the years is even though the money or even the marketing reach, even though the money or the marketing reach of a sponsor or the investment and capital dollars from an investor is the highest or sounds the best, I think the biggest thing if you want long-term partnerships is who do you really want your team to work with? Like in New York, when we made the TCS decision, we had a giant consumer brand that you would all know that has global marketing reach, and we had TCS, and TCS was a B2B brand, not as well known, was not at that time going to amplify our reach, but over a process, it became very clear, one, based on alignment with the values, two, that our team would actually love to work with their team because you are really close to these organizations. And if it's going to be really not pleasant for your team, this is for the leaders of the organizations, like it's going to be a pain point. Let's do this. In the US, as we've rolled out, we started with who would be our favorite people to work with? Andy, Rich at Atlanta, because that really does matter. So just think about the flip side of that.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic point to add. Just as a sort of like closing thought, obviously anyone who wants, presumably I can share your personal phone number and everything.
Yeah.
Snapchat.
Home address.
Yeah, home
whatever,
address,
that's fine.
yeah.
Just pop round for a cup of tea.
Yeah, just whatever. I mean, you got nothing on this week, so it's good. Obviously, if anyone here, anyone online and that kind of stuff, please do reach out to any of the Let's Do This team. I mean, literally, globally, obviously TCS is the primary sponsor in our sport globally. It sounds like you shouldn't be expecting $2 million flowing to you in the next 12 months, but be working on it for the next few years. But as far as the partners that we sort of see in all these conversations, there really are three. There's Y11. And the partners there and what they're doing with Motive. There's London Marathon and there's RunThrough. So if it is something which you're interested in, your race is interested, please reach out to me or any of the team. Let's do this, or we can share. And we will not publish, but we will then make introductions to people there. Panel, thank you so much. It's such a privilege to get to sit on stage with you. And thank you so much.
Cheers, Sam.